Welcome to another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy webinar series presented by Florida Blue. I'm Kendra Douglas, and today we have Chris Lamarucciola from Esports Manager and Professor at Conestoga College. Chris, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited because we were talking a little bit offline just a while ago of everything that you guys are accomplishing. And for starters, where is Conestoga College?
So we have multiple campuses in the west of Greater Toronto area, so the Kitchener-Waterloo region. The campus that I work out of is the Waterloo campus, and that's kind of where all of our esports things happen. Our main campus is in Kitchener, and it's called the Dune campus.
Okay, so first off, how did you even get into the esports world?
It's a great long story, so I'll try to keep it down as tight as possible. But I was studying event management, I guess around 2016, 2017, in sports, entertainment, and arts, and that was kind of the focus. Always an avid gamer throughout my entire life. And esports was kind of this new booming hot topic that everyone was, kind of focusing on. So being a gamer, being somebody who was interested in thinking outside of the box per se, all of my colleagues or other students that were with me were all doing things in sports and arts. I wanted to do something different, so all of my presentations throughout that program were all based on esports, big events. Fortnite was big and popping off at the time too, so I was like, let me focus on this. Did a little bit more research, and being somebody who was kind of always wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own businesses, I was like, it can't be that hard. How hard could it be? So spoke to a couple of friends, and we built this amateur esports team, all locally based in the Toronto area. There was multiple facilities in the area, and we really focused on that club mentality that you would get in traditional sports. No fees for anybody. There was very little, expenses for us at the time too. We'd get together, we'd hang out at, LAN centers, play some games, and then we started to build this team and community around that. So over time, started to get some interest from, investors that were looking to get into the space, and we had the team in that area. So had a couple of conversations, and we ended up merging with or being acquired by a company that helped really bring us to the level that we needed to build our teams and actually kind of make this a real business. Over that time, we expanded into different games, different titles, but we really dove into Rainbow Six. That was our main title, along with what were we in? Rocket League at the time, and a little bit, here and there. So throughout that, we continued to build. We ended up acquiring a roster in Rainbow Six that then again, boosted us to that next level. They had just qualified for the Six Invitational, which was the World Championships. They didn't have an organization with them, so we had a conversation, acquired that team, ended up going to that event. Through that, we got more interest from another company who then wanted to possibly acquire us. Our team did very well through that, and then it ended up through there going from an amateur team to entering the professional team, professional league. So we had to all go to Vegas to play a relegation match like you would in traditional sports, soccer. Our team went to Vegas, a bunch of 18-year-old kids with me during lockdown for that as well. It was December of 2021. It was early.
Yeah.
Shocking that we were even able to go to this. So maybe it was 2021. I can't remember the dates. It feels so long ago. The team had arrived. We played our matches against an organization that a lot of people probably know called XSET. Our team was Parabellum at the time, and we actually beat them 3-0, relegated them out of the league, and got promoted from the amateur North American League or North American Challengers League to the North American Pro League. Mm-hmm. Through that, we then got that interest from the other business who ended up acquiring us. So 2 acquisitions within 2 or 3 years of our business. Then we played a couple of years in the North American Pro League for Rainbow Six. After that, kind of a little bit of a split. I ended up doing a lot of focus on, the education side of things, where I was helping develop courses and working and teaching within the collegiate space. I ended up exiting in April of 2023, I guess. Continued with the education development. Through that time, I was also working with an agency developing content creator products and businesses. Did that for about a year, and then this opportunity at Conestoga popped up, which was to manage the esports portfolio, where now I'm working with our facilities, our teams, and the college to expand the growth of esports at the college. So it's kind of like the quickest way I can go from 2017, 2016 to today. But that's just a little bit of a path.
So the role you're in now, I mean, kind of walk us through your day-to-day like activities. What do you do and how are you able to help manage and be around students who are in this field?
So right now, a lot of what I do personally is a lot of business development on my side. That's kind of my day-to-day role within the college. I do work directly with our supervisor of esports operations, who then works with our facilities and our teams directly. So I'm kind of helping to guide them along the way of, how can we run these teams to be, structured properly, having the coaches in place, having whoever else needs to be, in those roles in place, focusing on the facilities and how we can bring our teams together, as well as how can we run events, both internally and externally within the college. And then I guess on the teaching side, which is a little bit every 3 months, I do a course. Through there, what I do personally is I try to guide students through, understanding what career path they want. We have open conversations throughout the course as well. Obviously, we follow curriculum. And then I kind of try to, determine what the students' needs are. So, whether it's an hour or a half hour towards the end of class that we can discuss and have open discussion about things that are going on, events that they can, volunteer for, things that they're working on at the school, and opportunities that we have within the esports department. Just kind of navigate around all of that. So between my admin job and then the teaching side, that's kind of what I'm doing.
I like how you mentioned that, you're helping kind of guide these students with open conversation, but also kind of helping them out, figuring out which way they want to go career-wise, which is perfect for this because this webinar allows us to kind of like for students to kind of look at this too. So what would be some of your biggest advice to them for those who are wanting to get into the esports world? Or what are you noticing that like a lot of your students are asking and you're having to like really focus on those topics?
I'd say the biggest thing for me is like I try to get my students to volunteer for everything that's available to volunteer for. An opportunity pops up on LinkedIn, like this one. You throw your hat in the ring, and if you get a response, you get a response. If somebody says no at the time, hey, maybe it's not the right time, at least you're in there and you can always follow up for future opportunities. So that's kind of number one. We have a lot of events in Toronto. One specifically right now, it's called the CNE Gaming Garage. It's at our big exhibition every year. There's a gaming aspect to it. We even have teams competing from Conestoga there. But we also have a lot of students that go and volunteer to go to this event. This now opens the door for networking opportunities with brands, with other people who are looking for possible workers at the events in the future or whatever it is, right? So number one. Number two is, again, the networking online now is getting your name out there on LinkedIn, getting your name out there on X or Twitter or whatever we want to call it, right? Posting on socials about things that you're doing. Just because we're on such an online world, and if you're not visible, unfortunately, your name might not get out there. So online, in-person events, whatever you need to do, get out there. But the great thing about what we're offering is our students can work with us directly at the college to get that work experience that they might not qualify for in the real world right now. I'm using a lot of air quotes because it's just kind of the way it is, right? So they get an opportunity now to work with us if we need an academy team lead or a hub floor staff or production or whatever, and they're also learning through the programs, through like what we call work integrated learning, or these hands-on experiences through their courses to help them produce a stream like this, or the game streams that we're doing, or sit down with professional casters that we hire for our game days, or whatever that is. And then use us as a reference or whatever they need to kind of build their future careers up.
That's awesome. As we're talking about this, did you ever imagine that this could be a career for you and that you could be doing this and we'd be talking about this kind of career for yourself?
I'd say ask the 10 years ago, Chris,
Yeah.
probably not. But it was always like a passion of mine and something I always wanted. Like especially the education side. Now that and I can go back to even my interview with Conestoga. One of the things I said was, I've lived the what's the word? Amateur esports side, developing into a professional esports, team owner, where we've then, got our business exit and all that fun stuff that comes along with it. I've helped develop courses for programs through these other businesses. I've taught. The only thing I haven't touched yet was the collegiate esports space. And what we're doing at Conestoga is really cool with, facilities and courses and the competitive side. There's so many different buckets that we're in, and it's like amazing that we're here. And we're building our kind of like internal infrastructure outside of the industry. Still part of it, but it's like we have our own little industry inside of all this. So I'm very happy to be here. 10 years ago, Chris is screaming. I'm jumping up in my in my seat and like saying we made it, like we got there.
I want to keep you on the expansion. We were talking a little bit about what you guys are doing, but please elaborate a little bit more of how you guys are expanding this esports world for your students.
So right now, like our main focus is student life, really more than anything, right? So we have a current esports hub. It's got about 30, I want to say 30 setups and a full production room, which is like the coolest part. You walk in and there's the production room behind all this glass, and our team's working hard all the time building. Right now, getting ready for the upcoming season, which is going to start in September, when all of our students are going to come in for onboarding and starting to play. So we've got our full hub where, during the day, our students can come in, they hand over their their student card to the front desk. They get 3 hours of play per day at the hub where, they can come hang out, play with friends, get online, play Valorant, League of Legends, whatever they want to do. We have a little iRacing simulator there, lots of consoles. They can play FIFA, whatever, with their friends. At nighttime, like around 6 o'clock, that's when our varsity students and our coaches come in and start getting ready for game day, or they do their practices or whatever else. So that's our current facility. Through development and through the college, and this was before I was even here, they put together this proposal to build an esports arena at the college, which is now being built. I got to go see the building the other day. It's in our Waterloo campus. It's about 10,000 square feet, and it's a multi-purpose facility. So it's going to have a gaming floor, a full competition stage, a huge LED screen so people can watch, and then it kind of it cuts in the middle with a retractable wall, and behind that wall is a lecture hall. So our college can use that as a lecture hall during the day for whatever programs want to use that space. And then if we host an event or whatever we can pull that wall back, and we're going to have 400 seats available for people to watch and sit. And it's going to be crazy. Along with that, because that should be, we're hoping mid next year, we'll have, access and be ready to host events towards the end of next year, or at least when the school season starts in September. Along with that, we're building another hub to match the one in Waterloo. So that's like another 36 setup space for student life. Same thing, one card, come hang out, play some games, relax for a bit before. Maybe you have 3 hours between class and you you really want to play Valorant or Rocket League. So
Yeah.
we've got all that all on the different campuses. By 2026, we're hoping to have an additional 2 hubs with the arena. So that's, kind of a 3 to 4 year plan, is continuing to expand out. And then we'll be able to use all of these for events or whatever else is needed. And then throughout that too, the other cool thing that we're talking about is how can we now bring all the campuses together and build out this like intramural league within the campuses. So Waterloo campus versus Dune campus versus whatever other campus, and just build this league internally. So like I said, we have that like ecosystem within that's going to just, self-sustain.
Yeah. Have you been able, I mean, just talking about this, I'm sure this is a huge selling point for some people to come to the school.
Mhm.
Have you noticed that because of what you guys are offering, because you guys are, it sounds like kind of on the cutting edge and like really finding ways to incorporate esports in your everyday life, are you finding that that's really bringing in a lot more students who specifically want to come to this school just for that?
I think between having the facilities as well as the 2 courses that we have available, so one
Mhm.
through the School of Business, that's more, I'd say, I call that like our theory-based program, where there's a lot of, you've got your standard lectures, um, more background on esports business, more background on the industry as a whole. And
Mhm.
then we've got the creative industries course that's more focused on, the production and event side of the business, where then again we're building and bringing the students into our hubs and arenas to teach them and work more hands on. So I'd say that's
Mhm.
more like the practical, and you can do them together.
Yeah.
Where one's the creative industries one is a 2-year diploma, the School of Business one is a 1-year postgraduate certificate. So you can come out with 3 years experience with industry, background when you're done with the program. So it's really cool to see how that's all working. Um, Hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, so yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. A question kind of going into esports. How have you seen the esports landscape change since you got onto the scene?
Ooh, it's done backflips and hurdles and all the other whatever Olympic terms we want to use here. Early days, like I said, the investors were into the space quite a bit.
Mhm.
Um, and it kind of like, I mean, it was a roller coaster for me as well. So having investment come in and then possibly not be there for my business or other businesses, and we're kind of seeing this decline, and now it's kind of building back up, and I'm seeing a lot of collegiate or colleges enter the space now, and they're actually bringing in people from I, the traditional esports world, which is, the professional or amateur scene. But there's so many brilliant people that have been working in the collegiate space that I've got to meet over the last, 8 weeks, that I had never even had FaceTime with prior being in the pro space, that I wish I had talked to. So um, I think we're back on this, upward trajectory of the industry. I think a lot of people are starting to figure out how to make the business viable and how to make things work. Um, but it's been kind of like you got to be working on it all the time to figure it out. And sometimes
Mhm.
you need to, I don't want to say fail, um, but we use kind of, the term of, it's not a loss, it's a lesson. And taking that and building up, what did I do wrong here? And how can I not do it again in the future? Or how can I learn from this and make things better?
Mhm.
And just continue to grow that up. So I'd say now with, on the collegiate side, the support that we have from the entire college, because the college backs it, as well as, we're integrated directly into the athletics and recreation program. All of that together really, really helps. And a lot of people don't like to compare the sports side with esports, but I find that there is opportunity for the two worlds to coexist.
Mhm.
Um, where, maybe in the traditional esports side, there's been a little bit of, it might be headbutting or chaos. But like I said, roller coaster, but we're on the right path now to make this go the right direction. At least, and I'm going to say at least on the college side, but I've got a lot of colleagues still in the pro side that are doing really incredible things.
Keeping with the college side, you just mentioned how, like, you noticed that there are other schools who are continuing to expand. Why is it important for colleges to kind of get on this bandwagon and really get with the times of what's happening in esports?
I think it's, again, for us with the position of student life, it's a great thing to connect and get people together with, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
gaming brings people together all the time. I've had conversations with parents and um in the past where they're like, "Oh, my kid doesn't, they don't communicate well with others." I'm like, "You should sit in a Discord chat with your child because they don't stop talking. We can't get them to
Yeah.
stop." Um So what we see at the college side too is, we've got these programs and everyone kind of flocks to the hub to play together, or they come in with their friends or they meet new people there because we're all there for the same reason, right? We're all there to game and maybe de-stress for 3 hours or an hour or whatever it is. So it's a great community builder. Now, having courses involved with it too, like I said earlier, it's now giving our students an opportunity to get in at the ground level with professionals who have worked in the space or are working in the space, which I kind of pride our programs towards because we have a lot of professionals that are teaching it and developing those courses. Um, and just, again, brings everything together as a greater community. So I would urge schools that are not doing it to kind of look at how they're doing it and what their plans are for esports, not just throw an esports team together because they should, because everyone else is doing it, but look at how they can do it, how they can differentiate from other schools like us. We're more facilities focused and student life focused. Another might be, a D1 college in the States that wants to, be the best competitive team. How are you going to do that? And what value does it bring to the school? So for
Mhm.
us, my things community.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me, what are some of the misconceptions that you see about esports?
I'd say number one, going back to the communication side of things. Um, I hear a lot of that, you know, people, don't know how to communicate anymore.
Yeah.
Gaming does have a very strong need for communication, especially in game. Um, it's actually where we do a lot of our communication to our esports portfolio in the school too, outside of email and your student life emails that come out. Um, what else? That gamers are gonna sit in their basement and just play games all the time and they don't do anything else. Um, a lot of the students that we have in our program are, extremely smart students. They play sports, they do other things outside of the game, which is great. They come to class all the time, which is a big one for me. Um, and I'd say the other thing that maybe is, kind of a hot topic right now is, that along with people not getting out and doing other things, it's like, the burnout side, and they just spend so much time sitting behind the computer and they're not getting anything done.
Mhm.
Um, through this, number one of the reasons we limit the amount of time that students can play at the facility is a 3 hour max. It's around the same time they have a course or a program. But trying to, like, while you're gaming, try to use this as a learning thing too, right? Especially if you're working with a team. It's, are you playing to play, or are you playing to learn something while you're playing? Do you want to get better? What are your goals? How you're setting yourself up for success and using those lessons for possibly your future career.
Mhm. Those are really great things that you mentioned. And we kind of talked a little bit about just how this webinar is helpful for students as well. But for those young viewers who are out there and want to get into that professional space, what would be some of the advice, or how would you go about now? Like, how now where you're at, how would you tell students to go about becoming a professional in this space?
Love that. There's so many opportunities. And I know a lot of, I'd say, young people who I've worked with have always wanted to, I want to be a pro Rocket League player, or I want to be a pro Valorant player. But there's a wonderful kind of like chart out there. I think that the creator of it is Nick. I don't want to get this wrong. Maybe I can figure out what his name is. But there's a really good chart that has all of the opportunities and all of the job opportunities within the space. And, professional player is this little tiny one in the bottom of the chart. But there's hundreds and hundreds of job opportunities in the esports realm that you don't even necessarily have to get, a degree from a college that specializes in esports. You can have broadcasting, you can have any side of production, you can have the education side, you can have communication, social media. Like, there's so many opportunities in the space. It's just about kind of navigating and seeing where you want to be. And back to our question a few questions back was like, how are you networking and how are you going to get that experience? And going to events and talking to people and just wanting to learn. And that's the key thing is what do you want to learn, and are you going to put the time in to actually learn it, right? Volunteering, again, back to earlier, that's like my number one way to learn something. I've done it myself through, learning how to do events and whatever else it is, or just asking somebody for 15 minutes of their time on how did you get to where you are today? And same thing, what's your advice on how to get there? And for me, it's like volunteer and ask always. The worst thing anyone can say is no. That's my big thing. So
that's so true. Are you noticing that when you talk with students and you're hearing, I guess, just this generation with, you can come up so fast, like even with streaming, like being, and just to how successful you can be. And are you noticing that there is a disconnect, or some people or you're having to have that conversation of going a different route and possibly, I guess, how am I trying to ask this? Like, are you noticing that people want to get to the top quick and fast rather than like going through this process and understanding it might not go as fast as you'd want it to go?
I guess it kind of helps that I did my little stint in like the creator side of things too, right? And I've seen people just, explode out of nowhere because they've made a couple of good pieces of content, or funny pieces of content, or ridiculous pieces of content. And then they also then have to like fall into that bucket of, this is me, this is what I do now. For me, 10 years to get to where I'm at, wouldn't say I'm, famous in esports by any means. But I've kind of got to the position where I'm very happy with where I am, and it doesn't come with tens and thousands of followers and all that. So if you kind of take it step by step, see how you're coming up and reflect and, make those goals for yourself. And that's, those goals they don't have it. It can be a moving target. I didn't think this was my goal. I reached one of my goals, which was, I want a team that we own to make the world championships. We knocked that off. We did it. And then it was, we want a in-game item in a game. We did that. Check. Exciting. But then what's next? And now I'm on the side of, okay, the goals for my future, I've reached a lot of them. I'm in a happy place. Now, part of my new development is like, I want to help others get to where they want to be, which kind of puts me in that position of where I am today, along with teaching. It's not going to come overnight. And even the people who got famous overnight have probably been at it for a long, long time. We just haven't seen it, and we think it happened overnight. Again, that one piece of viral content that goes live that people get excited about. I think there was somebody in our space, or there still is, Jinxie. He went from streaming to 0 people for a long, long time. And it just took, it took a short period of time for him to go from nothing to kind of where he was at, and got big, and then continued to grow and grow and grow and become one of the biggest streamers in the space right now. But we don't see the 10 years prior or 15 years prior that he's been working his butt off to become a top streamer?
Yeah.
And then how does he now take it to the next level, or what does he want to be the next level? Because now he's got brands going after him and teams wanting to work with him and all of this stuff. And that comes with additional stress, right? So there's so much that can be done. But I think for every individual, it's like set your 5-year goal, understand that it's going to be a moving target. And then once you hit those, make some new goals for yourself. And whatever that is and that path is for you, that's fine. It doesn't have to be an explosion of fame or whatever it is. And again, I'll say this probably for the third and probably not the last time, is network out there and keep trying. Just work on it. But don't grind. I don't like the grind term. Like that's how you burn out. Just work, do what you got to do. Don't stay up till, 4 a.m. trying to figure this out. Tomorrow's another day and you'll be fine.
That's a good segue into asking about mental health. So on this webinar series, we do want to talk about just the importance of mental health. And you mentioned kind of burnout and you've mentioned what you guys are doing at the college now. So can you give us a little bit background of maybe how you've handled mental health in your career and also what you guys are doing at the college to help these students out with their mental health?
Yeah. How long do we have? I'd go back probably to when, I was in the middle of this business acquisition and going from like our amateur team to going pro, being in a relationship, being between Canada and the US quite often for work and for other things. And I noticed that, running an esports organization with not a lot of help, just a few of us hands on deck, my phone buzzing all the time, Discord going off, games on weekends, and really hard to balance my personal life and my work life because my work life was my personal life. It just, that line got so blended. I really started to feel like, lost and burnt out and whatever. And for me, I finally, listened to all the ads that I was getting about mental health and I went to therapy. Yeah. And I say it was one of the greatest things I've ever done. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me how to respond and not react to things, which I think is a key thing. Stepping back, sleeping on things, not immediately giving somebody an answer if you don't need to, and how to deal with things like that. So, 5 years back, I probably would have like, send me a message, I'm going to get right back to you, and just, it might not be the right response. Now I'll read something, I'll write it in a draft. Before I hit send, I exit, maybe walk away, come back, and reread it. And it's really helped me in my professional career now too. On the external side of seeing other people go through it, I don't want to say we our organization, we had 5 under 20-year-olds living in a team house in Las Vegas as professional esports players. These guys have never been in this position before. They haven't left their families, really. They're still, young in their careers per se. And we took them out of their family life and their school life, and put them into this, this house in a different state where they're like, now we got to live on our own. And I learned a lot about that and how that all worked and I wish I did it differently now, right? Having maybe a mentor or somebody in that space. But the good thing we did have in place was we had a performance coach available to them, not with them, available to them. If they had any issues, they needed to talk to somebody like that wasn't their family or their parents, or needed to decompress from a game or a practice or being with their team, then they had that opportunity to talk with their performance coach. Now, wasn't a psychologist by trade. However, we're starting to see a lot of psychologists enter into the space now. I have a really good friend who used to be a professional football player in the Canadian Football League, who is now working on being a sports psychologist, but he also wants to work in the esports realm because he's a gamer. He loves it. He understands kind of all of that side of things. So we're starting to see it become a real thing. But at the same time, going back to me, is like there's also other outlets that you can use when it comes to therapy or whatever. And then to go into the student life and, you know, the collegiate side of things, and this kind of goes for everyone. I'm sure that every school has somebody who's a psychologist on campus that you can go and talk to. And I urge everyone to, you know, it's hard to start talking about your feelings. And the person who's there is there for you and to support you. And even if you just go one time, it'll make a massive impact. And you'll actually want to continue to go. Yeah. I didn't think I wanted to talk about my feelings to a stranger on a Zoom call because I couldn't go to, you know, an office or maybe couldn't even afford it. But there's affordable opportunities to talk to somebody out there. So again, I urge everyone to go talk to their counselor or whatever at a school. Or on the flip side, there's wonderful resources online that you can use as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, Chris, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I want to say thank you for just taking the time to talk with us on this webinar series. For those who are going to be watching, can you just tell us the best ways to connect with you through your social medias?
Yeah, for sure. So on Twitter/X, it's Chris Lama. Yeah, it's always going to be Twitter. So yeah, it's Chris Lama. And then on LinkedIn, which I use more often than not, it's Chris Lamarucciola. I'm sure it'll be spelled somewhere. Lamarucciola. I try my best to respond to every message I get on LinkedIn, especially if it's for somebody who is looking to grow their career or just has questions. I do my best to guide them in the right direction where I can. Twitter, more, you know, casual conversations, or even, you know, Discord. Llama is my handle. So I'm happy to, you know, connect with whoever and help you, you know, whatever you need for your possible future career.
Well, thank you. I think this was the perfect person to have since you were working at a college and this webinar series goes for students too. So thank you so much again for taking the time to talk to us. And this has been another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy webinar series presented by Florida Blue. Make sure that you guys follow us on Magic Gaming, and that's on Twitter and on Instagram. Chris, thank you again. And we will see you guys in a couple weeks for the next episode.